Hello, 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 hello. Welcome again to another edition of Carl and Charlene. And I have a special guest on today that I am so happy to bring on. She's going to bust out this live. We're going to talk about a few things, as we always do. We talk about leveling up your business and your life. And I brought someone that's near and dear to my heart, especially with their profession and what they do. And she's just going to share with us some of the things that we're just going to be talking about vulnerability. This is our vulnerability episode. And of course, you know me, I'm the king of vulnerability. This is how I do. This is how I am. This is what goes on. We got Charlene coming on shortly. She's having some technical difficulties, but hey, it is what it is. Everybody's using technology. We having problems. We having issues. We just keep it rolling. All of those that are joining me live, I do appreciate it. Please leave your comments in the comment box. Tell me where you're checking in from. Let me know where you're, what questions you have, anything that we're talking about that you're loving. Make your comments. Feel right at home. You know how we do our show. We're just going to be real talking today, and we're just going to have fun with it. So remember to leave where you're checking in from. Leave your comments in and just join in the discussion because it's all about real talk. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring to the show. This lady is phenomenal. I met with her a couple of weeks ago, and she's been in my network. I've been in hers. But it's amazing when you put those connections together and you actually talk and you actually just see the semblance of what you have when someone else is when you're reaching out to someone else and they're talking and you guys discussing things. You come to find out that we are a lot alike in a lot of ways. All we have to do is communicate with each other, guys. That's what real talk is about. So she is definitely in my line of work, not so much particular what she does, but you know me and the law thing. So I can't tell you how excited I am to have her on the show. We're gonna welcome to the show Alina Lee. She's my business attorney. How you doing this morning, Alina?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on the show, Carl.
Oh man, I was just thinking about this, and I was thinking about it. I think I mixed up the days from when we were supposed to get on, but it's so much going on with so many people, and so busy. It's just hard to keep up. So, Alina, why don't you tell everybody like who you are? Like who is Alina Lee? Like I know who you are, but share with our audience who you are.
Well, my day job is I'm an attorney. I wouldn't say that's who I am as a person, but that's my day job. I represent small businesses as their day-to-day attorney to help them with all their regular legal needs, helping with their contracts, helping with their operations, being a good legal advisor and a trusted friend to them when it comes to making sure that everything's ticked and tied and they can stay out of court. I don't handle any litigation. So my job is to help you stay out of legal trouble.
Oh, great. So help us stay out of trouble. So I definitely appreciate that because, sometimes we can be in trouble. Hey, Charlene, I told everybody he was having a technical difficulties, but we is on. So I'm just giving Alina a little time to kind of introduce herself to the network and kind of tell people who she is. And attorney is not who she is; it's just what she does. But I'm sure she was just telling us before in the green room, and I won't share all of her secrets, but just telling us that she's boring. But then she described to me what she's doing for the weekend, and I was like, that doesn't sound boring at all. So sounds like we got a lot of stuff going on. So Charlene, what are we talking about today? Come on in and greet everybody with your precious self.
Hello, everyone. I'm a little in the dumps. But today is all about being vulnerable, but using it to elevate your business instead of allowing it to sink your business. Because a lot of times we feel like, we can't ask for help. I feel like that sometimes. Can't ask for help. You don't want to feel like you're burdening other people. Everybody's busy. I have to wait or I got to figure it out myself. But taking that vulnerability to ask, to kind of lower yourself, your pride, lower your pride, put that aside, and then reaching out to people as many times as you need to, as many people as you need to, and being vulnerable enough to get that help and that support So we're talking about how do you use that vulnerability to level up and get your business where it needs to be, get you where you need to be, your life.
Yes, definitely get you where to be, and that's something that I don't know. It's to me, vulnerability is a lifestyle, and I've turned that into that for me. Just dealing with people and dealing with clients and doing business, especially in business. I'm an advocate, of course, first and foremost for diversity and inclusion, but I think a lot of times what we miss on the aspect of that is that people are quick to do the diversity part because everybody wants to make sure that we're filling these quotas, so to speak. And it's such a horrendous term to use, but we want to make sure that we're hiring the right people, that we have these different nationalities and segregations in place. But then when we talk about the inclusion parts of them, a lot of times they are just there at these companies, at these corporations. They're not really being included in the whole totality of the businesses. And I think this is where I came in to bridge the gap with the vulnerability part of that, because when you allow those diversity to see your vulnerability, then it brings about the inclusion. So I told people all the time, that's kind of like my mathematic equation, vulnerability, diversity plus inclusion equals vulnerability. So when you get those two together and you really glue one to the other, then you start to see your business grow, your personal life grow. Our differences is pretty much what our strengths are. When you're different from someone, they're carrying a strength that you don't have. So when you come to the knowledge of understanding that, it's a great thing. So that's how you really level up in business. For all those business owners out there, start working with the people on the aspect of understanding them, where they are. You know what I'm saying? Have empathy, put yourself in their places, because they're trying to make your name on the business great. They are the ones that are working for you. That's what I really envision when I think about vulnerability. I never have thought of it from the point of weakness. I've always thought of it as a superpower, because it was sort of like skeletons in the closet. If you tell on yourself first, it takes the sting out of anyone else telling. And that's what I think about vulnerability. If I share with me my vulnerability, it takes the sting out of you being able to hurt me, because I've already put it out there. So there, where I get that, it's your power. It's your power. What you think about that, Alina?
I 100% agree. And it's how I like to operate my law firm too. I think that, people want real connection, especially given like everything that's going on in the world. Like we want to have a real connection with people. It's not about, oh, I have my personal life and then I have my work life. It's like, no, if you're in my work life, you're in my life. And there isn't that separation. And I want to have a real connection with the people that I work with as well. That's a very big reason why I actually left corporate America and started my own law practice. Was I wanted to work with real people, clients who I cared about very deeply and who also cared about me as a person. And it's a beautiful way to live.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely is. I think about the aspect of it, and it's you behind the armor. It's you in dealing with that, and the relationships. And I've come to find out the relationships are so genuine, and it's so trusting, and it's so real when you're like that with people, and businesses should be like that. I know a lot of people say that you can't intertwine those in businesses. You're there, for a job. It's not, we're not trying to pamper or those kind of things. But when you look at the pandemic and what it has evolved from in the business world, and people going back to these jobs, you're going to have to be prepared as CEOs, executives, leaders, business owners. You're going to have to be prepared to have a little more give and take than you had prior to the pandemic, because all of these jobs that's out there, people are not just jumping back to them. I know they try to bring in a lot of factors of why people are not returning to work. The main ones with all the clients that I've talked to, they're not returning back to their places of employment because they didn't like how they was treated before the pandemic. So now it's an empowerment behind that says, okay, if you're not on the same page with me doing what I'm doing, feeling like I'm feeling, making some concessions along the way with how I work for you and how you treat me, then they're not going to go back to these jobs. And this is really what's been my push to get executives and owners to see that there's going to have to be some give and take. And that give and take is only beneficial to the business owners. when you look at it, I mean, when you give them their insight, or you give the employees the things that they need, being able to work from home sometimes during the work week, being able to take those days off without blackout days. I mean, those little things an employee looks at as like, wow, you didn't move heaven and earth for me. When it really is, you're a business owner. If you shift things around and be strategic about how you're doing your business, it benefits both parties, and I think that's really the key to the understanding that. What you think about Charlene?
I agree. I agree. Because even when you're in business, you're always in that mindset of you can't have someone else beat you, or if you're vulnerable, they'll use that against you. And we see
Yes.
it all the time because you always see someone trying to one up another. And instead of collaborating, true collaboration, true build up, I think more businesses, more industries will actually grow better, stronger if you had employees uplifting each other rather than, oh, I need to get this spot over you kind of situation. If you want to see everybody elevate, then you can make room at the bottom for others to come up to the top, and people at the top make room for those underneath you. It's like you have that mentality where people want to stay where they are and block everyone else from coming. So then you never have the fresh ideas, you never have the fresh momentum. A lot of companies end up in a stuck position. They can never really grow, and then you start seeing them start to look outside of the company for fresh ideas instead of just looking within and looking past the ones you've always picked to get those fresh ideas from the company. And then that gives like a new adrenaline for everyone.
It does. It sets the table also. What I don't think that a lot, and I know just working in corporate for as long as I have, there's always been that rat race kind of thing going on in corporate. Like it's never been, and I've been with quite a few. I've worked for Lockheed Martin. I've worked for IBM. I've worked for GMAC, GMAC. I've worked for like some big Fortune 100, 500 companies, right? And every way along the way, it was never the inclusion of. It was always the reward system was always set up competitively to work against each other than with each other. Uh, Whatever rewards that you got was always that kind of thing. It's like, okay, if you outdo this one, it was never a collaborative issue. And I always kind of bought that because I thought the greater part of vulnerability was being able to say, okay, I don't know this part, and I know you know this part. So the part I know, let's bring my best to it, and let's bring your best to it, and let's do the divide on that, and just work together with a collaboration. But it's going to
So
be
do you
very
think
important.
do you think it's more performative? Because that's the catchphrase of 2020 2021 is being performative when you're saying, oh, we are going to collaborate. Is it more people are using that term, but um, they're really gaining knowledge and skills from other people being without them giving something up. They're looking for everyone else to give to them rather than them also giving to others. So that performative aspect, do you think that's what's going on, Alina and Carl?
Alina, go ahead. Uh,
I'm not sure about the whole performative aspect thing, though. Although I do feel like in general, some companies are trying to change. Like actually, one of my friends, Anthony, got a job at Netflix, and he's an engineer over there. And Netflix has done something really interesting in their engineering department, which is they basically made the whole engineering team flat. So there is no organizational structure. There's basically no hierarchy. And all the engineers are empowered to do their role without having to worry about titles and like who's above whom or who's below whom. I think it's really interesting. It's really cutting edge. And while it sounds like it certainly has its positives and negatives, it does force this collaboration because you don't have these issues of like, oh, well, I have to now escalate this thing or that thing before we can make a decision, which, when you're in corporate, sometimes things can just get stuck and not move forward because it's like, oh, well, did you loop in this person and that person and all these other people, and then before you know it, you can't move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. I think it, and I definitely, I think that can work. I think the mindset has to change. And I think the direction that like Netflix is taking with engineers, like when you're looking at Phil, it's sort of like, I mean, I know there's hierarchy within there, but it's also there's also a knowledge base that when you come into that spectrum, it's things that you know. It's so much different when you operate on different standards of business, sometimes you need that hierarchy to make the decisions, but the mindset of those in charge has to change because they have to take on a collaborative mindset. Because I've been in places where I've had like I come up with ideas all the time, and I've shared this with Charlene. I've come with ideas and I bring these to the table. I don't always have the steps and the ways to put it together, but I can piece the idea and I see in my mind what it looks like and envision it, and I'll pass that along to not only come back around. Someone saying, okay, I don't know if we're going to use that. I can't tell you how many times my idea has been stolen in the workplace. And I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
and you get back in and it's repurposed in a meeting and they bring it before everybody. And I'm like, really, dude, we was just talking about this at the water cooler. Like I just gave you all of that. And you get the idea, like if we'd have worked together on this and put it out there, you know what I mean? But I think the mentality and the consensus at companies are like that. They're like, okay, if I come up with the best ideas, then of course I'll be rewarded with the titles. No one thinks on the collaborative mind. It would be very cutting edge if everybody. I would love to go and just be at places like I've heard this. I got friends that work at Google and those kind of places where everybody just got this free flow of collaboration and using each other's talents and uplifting each other. I mean, I'm sure somebody's probably fighting in the restrooms or something like that. But I mean, I know it's not all positive as he makes it out to be. But I mean, I can see that in businesses, and that's why I try to incorporate talking to clients. If you, it's a give and take thing, and I think a lot of times businesses has got to the point, and it's been like that for so many years that they can just take advantage of what's there, the structure that's there. And I think we have to come along and we have to change the structure. And I think, and I'm pretty positive with those that I've spoken to, the pandemic has shifted that structure. It's not going to be the same. Some companies are going to resist it, but it's so many companies now, when you go to these malls and shopping strips and like their clothes, like they get like for sale signs and like everybody's going to have to come to you guys Forte on the websites, do marketing, like those kind of things. So it's going to have to be collaborations because you got those brick and mortars and those CEOs, they sitting in there. They don't know how to make a web page. They don't know how to market what they're selling. They don't know how to, do that contract stuff like that. So I think it's going to be a great thing.
Yeah, and I think after thinking about it a little more, Charlene, I think I understand your question a little bit more, but correct me if my understanding is incorrect. I think that as to like your question about whether like some of this stuff is performative, like we've seen like a lot of companies kind of put out press releases trying to like say that they're on board with DE&I stuff and saying like, oh, look, we've got this program and that program. And, I think in certain ways, that can be better than doing nothing. But, my personal opinion is that doesn't mean anything if you don't have real metrics. And you have to measure things like pay equity. You got to measure things like who's getting promotions, how's attrition looking. And if you're not measuring those things and you're not creating benchmarks and goals and you're not looking very critically at the numbers and you're just saying like, oh, we've got this program, hopefully this will quote unquote help, but you're not seeing if it's actually making a difference. To me, that doesn't mean very much at all. You can talk the talk, but you're not walking the walk. And the only way to walk the walk is to actually measure what's happening.
Exactly. And you did come to it because I've seen in corporate where people will I'm going to clarify where the higher ups, the top executives, the owners, founders, all of them want to look good in front of the cameras. They put out the statements. They even send out the company-wide emails. Hey, we're doing this, and this. But then when it comes to actually implementing, and we all know the telephone game. So as they're implementing and the information is trickling down, now the information starts to shift, the direction starts to shift. You have the people who are the bottlenecks in the company. They've either been there a long time or they're comfortable in the positions that they are. So they only want to bring in the people they know. So now others don't know how to reach those plateaus. They don't know how to get to the next level because no one's sharing that, or the opportunities are really truly not trickling down to everyone, and it's opening up that real full collaboration. Because like Carl said, people will share information, share ideas, and then someone takes your idea, go to a whole nother meeting, present it as their own. You don't know because you weren't at the meeting. I've had this happen many times. You weren't at the meeting. So before you know it, you see an initiative going out and you're like, wow, that's something that I said, or that looks like what I talked about. But it's not only is it going out because someone else is pushing it, it's not going out well. Then others are saying, oh, well, this failed. We can't really collaborate. We don't know what's going on because it's not being done properly. The collaboration is not being done where everybody is brought to the same table at the same time and they're having that talk and really allowing everyone's voice to truly be heard. So yeah.
And related to that, one study that I saw recently said that in corporate America, half of the roles tend to be filled by referrals from people who are already at the company. And if you think about it, well, who's been at these corporate America companies the last 50 years? It's like majority white people, because if you weren't white, you basically couldn't have these jobs, 40 years ago. Like, right? I mean, it was like really, these jobs weren't open to everybody. Let's just be real, right? And while things have certainly improved, what's important about this statistic is that, there's a bias that's built into the system. If 50% of your roles are filled by people who are currently at your company and the current makeup of your company is not adequately diverse. And so then people are like, oh, we're doing all these diversity things, but they're not necessarily addressing some of these root problems.
Exactly. And we already know, like how you said, if it's been the same people at the top for the last 50 and they're bringing in their families, their friends, all of that, then especially when they're having those off-hour groups and gatherings, the party, the events, the golf outings, the sports outings that it's not like you wouldn't go, but you're not invited. Why aren't you invited? Because you're not in that circle that's already been created. And it's like, how do you really take your vulnerability to say, hey guys, I feel left out. Can you let me in? And someone not looking at you as a weak employee or someone that they're going to work even harder to not add because they don't feel like you fit in. Like, how do you really transform that vulnerability into an empowering feeling or action item for yourself in that space? Even in your own business, if you're not in corporate, how do you now go into spaces that are also dominated by people who are white, who are male, even white women? How do you now take yourself as a business owner who's running it yourself to get into those spaces and be vulnerable enough to say, hey guys, let me in. I want to be part of it, not just to learn, but to add the value that I know I can add?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I think one thing, just speaking personally, that like kind of contributes to this is it can be kind of traumatic or re-traumatizing every time you're putting yourself out there and in a situation that's like really uncomfortable and you're not really sure how it's going to be received. And part of me has I've been practicing law for 9 years now. And before I started my own law firm 6 months ago, I was like in very like white environments. Like the legal world itself is very, very white. And part of it is just like, I've been fighting long enough and I want to be with my people. And like, I want to be with, and when I say my people, I mean like people who have the same values as me, the same value system, whatever they look like, whatever their age is, people who have the same values as me and who like appreciate things like diversity and inclusion, who see me as a person who like adds value to their lives. And you know, and those are the people that I'm like trying to work hard to surround myself with, because, you know, we only live once, and I want to be, and I deserve to be, and we all deserve to be around people who see us as we are and appreciate us as we are. And I think like sometimes in a corporate environment, you can't really pick and choose who you have to work with or who's in your circles. You know, that was, you know, that is a struggle, and like having to constantly push through that can be really grueling. And so speaking for myself, I'm kind of chilling out on that front right now. And it's just like, I just want to work with people who I like and who like me.
Yeah, it's and you hit something very, very definitely coming from, if I can even say you have an advantage, you do, even though you're a minority as me, you have a better advantage because, well, I don't know if it's better or it's just different, because you will see some of the women, regardless of the minority, get a little bit more like when I come in the door. I mean, I'll just face it, African-American man in law, which is a white field pretty much, and I'm headstrong. So like I'm bringing a lot of things to the table that's just disrupting the whole nine, right? So when I come into the room, it's kind of like I see the whispers. I see people like, I'm thinking I'm in the courtroom. Like, what's going on? Like, I'm on your team. Like, we're working on this together. And I think that the strength Charlene had brought about, that it has to start from the top, because if corporate, those that are in charge, regardless of whatever dynamic you're in, whatever field that you're in, that 50%, that's a real raw number. I remember working at the post office when I had just was going through my early years of college. Like I got a job at a distribution center, and like it was overnight, so it kind of fit things. But like 80 to 90% of the people that worked overnight, they was all referred by the people that had been there like 30 years. So like, and these was not workers. Like, this is what always gets me with, I don't have a problem if I refer you and you're top notch and you can do the job and you come in with the attitude. I would be working with these guys at night, and we supposed to be forklifting the trucks, and these guys they'd be in the locker room sleep. And they were making, I think back then I was making like about $18 an hour. That was pretty good back then. And these guys was killing it overtime, like killing, and was not doing any work. The shift come in the morning, like, yo, you guys didn't load these trucks? I'm like, I'm only one person, man. I got 8 people here. They've been asleep. They was in the locker room playing cards. They was doing all kind of things, but those were people that were from their uncles, from their cousins that had been in the post office for years, said, yo, get Johnny a job. And you know, Johnny works overnights now. These are the kind of same mentality that's taking it from there that has went to the boardroom, where my wife works in realty, and it's like she has 7 or 8 people there that's like in their 60s. I don't have anything wrong with older people, but they're so like ingrained with, this is how I've been doing it forever. She gets so frustrated with working with them because they don't want to see innovation. They don't want to see changes. If people come in with new systems, working out things, they're like, oh, we got to change the systems. Oh, I used to do it in that old system. Well, that old system been antiquated 20 years ago. Like, programs has changed. So I think if we don't get the dynamic of those that are in this shot caller, should I say, if they don't get the understanding that they're really muffling their business, they're stunning the growth. of their business with this continuum of I'm going to do the old buddy system. I'm going to do the referral system. Those was one of the things I sought out when I first decided about law school. I went to a law fair and I talked to people. Every single one that I talked to just had this prestige of yes, law is performed. It's performed openly, but it's performed by people who very quietly live their lives. And I was like, yeah, I agree to that to some extent. But like, I think people need to see the natural you for you to be representative of them in the totality of who they are. And I met this little lady, and she was a lawyer. She had been a lawyer, and she was the admissions for this college. And we talked, and I was like, oh, I had such a great talk with you. I said, let me ask you a question. I was like, how do you feel about adding vulnerability in the legal realm? And she just grabbed my arm. She's like, oh my God. She's like, no one talks about that. She's like, you're the first one that's ever talked in any of these fairs. I say, I think it needs to be inclusive with what we're doing. And I ended up talking to this lady, like I didn't go to Northern Tables. I ended up talking to this lady about an hour and a half. And she was like, we need students like you are thinking outside of the box and bringing this newness to that. So if we don't get it done through leadership, if we don't get it done through the core of that, that's where my push is at, to get the leaders to understand. Then you can melt that down and trickle that down. But we've got to change that 50%. Wow, that's the good old boy system continuing.
And you mentioned something that I think is another form of being vulnerable. A lot of the older generation that are in corporate or in any style of business feel like they're being vulnerable by feeling they might get pushed out. So I guess, how is that something that maybe people can work on?
Sorry, that's my dog.
Welcome to the party. Welcome to the party.
Yes. Saying that, instead of feeling like I'm the oldest one here, I've been here 30, 40 years. Instead of seeing that as a vulnerable spot where they're going to just replace you, how can people really take that and position that vulnerability into a space of power where they can be the history holders of the company, the people to help innovation, because they can bring their knowledge and their skill sets to help elevate what the new items are supposed to come in and do, and make it a quicker, easier transition into the new. Because a lot of companies are failing too, bringing in a lot of new ideas because they don't understand the history. So there's no way for them to really bring in new technology, new processes, because the old processes, they either let people go or people left. So they don't have that knowledge to kind of build the foundation properly for the new. So how can they take that vulnerability of being the oldest there into a more empowering stance?
Yeah, I think that being vulnerable is a superpower, because that's what really creates connection with other people. And when you create connection with other people and you in your mind start thinking about like how certain policies are impacting others in the workplace, if you can like say like, oh, you know what, like this could impact Charlene negatively, and Charlene's an important person to me and my team, and I care about her. You know, usually people start to have those types of feelings when you feel like you can be open and honest with other people. And although it takes a lot of courage, you know, by you being vulnerable first, it makes it okay for other people to be vulnerable with you as well. And then that allows them to then, it's like a chain effect. It allows them to then be hopefully vulnerable with more and more people. And so you're creating this beautiful wave of change by you starting it off by being vulnerable first. And then when we all have this connection with one another, because we really know one another and we're being honest and truthful about our experiences and our pain and our happiness, then we will all start to like care and watch out for each other, I think. Or not, maybe not everybody, but the good, all the good people will. And that's all we can control. That's all we can control.
Exactly.
Shauna makes a great point here. She said the young and the older need to trade wisdoms. Both can learn from each other without either feeling threatened. And I think
Yeah.
this is where this is actually that was great perspective, because this is where the rubber meets the road. I talk about with the leaders how using your vulnerability strategically and intentionally, because a lot of times we don't have a grasp of using vulnerability because we don't like it. So therefore, if it's something you don't like, you don't take that on as a process that you can utilize. And I think this is what really has made it so bad for people, because the only thing that they can gravitate to is, of course, the dictionary definition of what it means to hurt or to harm. But they take that in the fact that I don't want anybody to know anything wrong with me. Well, hello, it's something wrong with everybody. So
Mhm.
when you get to the point of understanding that on yourself, then you can move with power with that, and using that. Charlene put a great point out there. When the older ones, you have, and this is where leaders bear the brunt of this, whether you're the top executive C-suite or either you're just the manager over the team. This is where the leader comes in and says, okay, strategically, I know I have an older employee and I have a younger employee. My older employee hates when systems change. My younger employee is phenomenal with learning systems. Okay, let's put something together where they can learn from each other. Also, the younger one can learn the heritage of the company. What this company means, what the values have meant to the older one. The older one can impart in them what you need to carry forward as a new employee coming in. Like, and this is where the leaders come in to make these conversations and make these things available to everyone. Because a lot of times you have the executives, they sit back and they let this happen, and it doesn't get anything until it gets traction to them, or it's stopping some bottom lines for them. Then they want to get involved, but it should be a culture, and that's why culture is so important. It should be a culture dynamic that's, I feel this way when I walk in the door, whether I look like you or not. I feel included. My receptionist at the door should be including everyone. If someone comes in, my secretary, she should be like, hold on, I'm on the phone. And then she have Johnny come in. Oh, come in, Johnny, come and sit down. I mean, we've got to do this thing fairly and equally. And the threatening part of it is we're not explaining to the one that got like 2 months to retirement that we're not trying to kick out early. We're not telling them we're replacing. We put these terms in that people get this defensive shield around. Yeah, well, this is your replacement. You know how many times I didn't train my replacement? And I trained them in the essence
Yeah.
of being angry, because that's how it was put to me. You know what I mean? I was like, and of course I didn't train them. I'm just telling the truth. I didn't give them half of what I knew, because you came at me like, well, this is the one gonna take your place when you leave in 2 weeks. You think I'm gonna show this one everything? I mean, maybe I should, but I think of it if it'd be like, okay, this is the one that we're transitioning in. This is where leadership come in. And this is the one that, we're going to be moving forward. They're going to be dynamic. They're going to help you. Could you help them get, I mean, it's the ways that we phrase things too. Yeah, I know you're kicking me out, but I may feel a little better because you came to me with some respect instead of coming to me that way. But that's just how I feel. Okay.
Well, and it's even worse when you're training your manager. When your manager
I didn't even
leaves
get to that point.
and then you don't get the promotion somebody else does, and then you got to train your manager.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's
Oh,
where it all
That's
comes
bad.
to head. That's where it comes to head, because then your manager's asking you all the questions. The manager needs the briefing, and not just a briefing. They want you to give them step by step, blow by blow, so they can go into meetings and look like they know what's going on in the company. So that's where also I think is another layer of frustration and vulnerability, because then you're looking at this and you're sitting in these meetings with people who don't understand the companies, but then they're being touted as, oh, they're so brilliant, but they're not brilliant enough to learn the company and retain the information. That's my thing. If I'm training you and I'm teaching you, then retain it. That's the least you can do for me. Retain the information. So then the more people that you're bringing in, then you can say, wow, this person was phenomenal in training. This person let me in on so much. We need to find a better way to show our appreciation, not just maybe a bonus, maybe a pat on the back, but give them a real leveling up in the company, allow them to take on more responsibilities that matter rather than giving them busy work. That's something else that I've noticed a lot of companies or executives are failing at. They're not really rewarding their high performers properly. I think they're giving that like a little wash over, and everybody, let's give everybody a like when you're in what is it, Little League, they give everybody a trophy.
Everybody gets a trophy, right?
The team hasn't played. Yeah. So
Everybody's an all-star.
Right. So then the trophy starts to not matter. It doesn't have a weight to it anymore because everyone has one, and you're not really emphasizing that, look, I notice you, I recognize you, you're putting in so much work in elevating the entire division or helping out a large amount of your colleagues, or you're always constantly ready when we need someone. You're always there and available for us. We don't have to like prod you and drag you to the meetings and stuff. You're there, you're coming with ideas. They're not rewarding those type of employees. And it becomes, I guess, a space of vulnerability transferring into frustration. So how can companies and executives especially really do better at that?
I think that, there are biases and issues and built into the system when it comes to looking at certain candidates' potential versus actual experience. And I think we see this time and time again, and science and studies have backed this up, that there is a tendency for, men and white people in general to have the upper hand when it comes to being promoted because they have leadership potential, even if they maybe don't have the experience. Whereas like for women or minorities, again, there's a little bit of a bias towards, we're only going to promote you if you already check all of the boxes. And it's not based on your leadership potential. It's based on what you've actually done. In certain ways, it's like, you can't get the promotion unless you've already been doing the job of like that promotion requires, right? Whereas sometimes for other people, it's like, oh, well, of course we don't expect you to know how to do those. We just think you will be great at this. And so we're going to go ahead and give it to you. And, like that's what I think generates so much of this frustration. Even if you've already checked the boxes and you've been doing your job and your manager's job, you're still being passed over.
Yeah, and that's been the benchmark. That has been the benchmark that is set, and we definitely don't have to go through the history of it, but that has really been what has been touted along the way, and it's definitely so in corporate, because they will give the big bonuses, for people who have not even achieved those things. And many times, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this as well, many times you already are doing your manager's job. You're already doing your supervisor's job. Like you're actually performing at that level and they're not, and you're showing them and you're doing that. But the plateau and the performance of that, you don't get that. But they do get it on that. It's like an athlete who, and it's a lot of it's carrying over to all fields. I think about it, it's most prominent now in athletics, where these athletes come out of high school, have not performed anything on a professional level, but they're touted with this so much potential that they're highly compensated for something they have not even achieved. And when you look at a lot of times, they become busts because the pressure has been put on them to do these things, and they've been compensated for it, and they've been celebrated as it. I hear this term "great" just thrown about so much, and I'm looking back on the level of just like maybe basketball, Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant's time. Those, you said great, they had performed to get the title. Now you got these kids coming out of high school who can dunk on ESPN, and it's like, he's a great talent. I'm like, how is he great? What has he done? I mean, so, and it's the same in corporate. Like, he got this guy's great. You get these promotions. These guys are, oh, he's great. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, he don't even know how to tie his shoes. How is he great? I mean, how does this guy come to this point where you've touted him so much with this respect and this candor and compensated him for something that he hasn't done? When I see you saying he's great, that boils my my blood when they come to the meeting and the CEOs bring this guy and it's like, yo, this guy is awesome. This guy is awesome. And when you work with him, he's asking you all the questions he should be knowing. And I'm like,
Oh,
I thought you, because I'll tell them, I was like, I thought he said you was awesome. Like I don't say it disrespectfully. I'm like, well, I thought you didn't learn this before you came. I mean, sometimes I can be Captain Obvious with stuff. I like put it out there. Like, why am I training you on this? You don't learn. Okay, all right, come on. This is how you do it. But the benchmark has been set, like Alina said. Yes.
Yeah. So as we are wrapping up, because we have come to our time, it's been a good. So Alina, you know you're coming back, right?
Yes, Alina,
I would love to.
You
are coming back. So I just want you to let the folks know where to find you, and then Carl, you can close us out and take it away, Alina.
Oh, great. Well, if any of you are, a small business owner or a leader at a company, and you don't have a trusted attorney, I would love to work with you. My name's Alina Lee, ALINALEE. My website is youradattorney.com, add AD. And you can find me on LinkedIn, connect with me. I'm offering a free 15-minute consultation to new clients right now, and you can go ahead and schedule that directly and automatically on my calendar through my website. It's in the upper right corner. I would love to meet you, even if you don't own a business, you're just thinking about it, or you're just interested in business or just want to network. Feel free to just schedule a 15-minute virtual coffee too. I'd love to meet y'all.
Oh, that's cool. And it's worth it. It's worth it because I had my little scheduled coffee and chat and chit chat. Alina is phenomenal. You can reach me. CarlSeanWatkins.com is the website. Also, you can definitely check me out on LinkedIn. I got my live shows, and I'm always looking for great people to come on and talk with us on Real Talk with me and Charlene. Vulnerability is my thing. It's what I do. I consult, coach, executive consulting. So if you guys got issues with your culture, understanding that diversity is just not in with the hire. You have to get the hired inclusive, and through inclusion, you show vulnerability to make them feel included. That is the key point to what we're talking about today. And that's the way business is really going to move forward. So you can look me up and drop it in the comments, your questions, your topics, things that you want to talk about. We want to make sure that we're covering the things that is important to you, because it is real talk. We just talk about real things, and we want to get to the grit of it. It's on you, Charlene. What's up?
Well, I have been having a blast getting people together with their strategy, because I've seen so many people come, they want a website, but they have no content. They don't know how to drive traffic. So it's all about strategy and conversions, building the websites that can get you what you need. So I am running a special. You can hit me up at bklyncustomdesigns.com/audit. Or just link with me on LinkedIn, and I will make sure that you get that information so you can apply. I'm only taking about 5 more people, maybe 6, maybe, but 5 more people, just to help you get that alignment that you need in your business, because a website without a strategy is just overpriced commodity that's going on in your business that you don't need. So instead of you having a liability in your business, I want you to build an asset that can be a profitable tool in your business for you. So hit me up with audit in a message, and I will get you that information so you can apply. And thank you, Alina, one more time. I cannot wait to get you back on. And we're going to spotlight more about what you really love to do and how you really love to serve the people. And Carl, you know where to find me. We talk almost dang near every day now. So, yes, and I got snapped on Clubhouse, but I got loved on at the same time. And that's where we're going to head to soon. We're going to head over to see Shanae Moray and the rest of the Growth Academy folks doing videos. And, we're just going to build together and keep learning. And building a community that is supportive. So thank you everyone for being here. I will drop into the comments. I did not put on my LinkedIn because like Carl said, I have so much technical issues going on. I did not want nothing to go wrong today again. So we will see you guys next Thursday. We are going to also post what we're going to talk about. And Alina, like I said, we're going to get you on as soon as possible because I would love to allow you to have more time to spotlight what you do and give some questions too. So or answer some questions because I think we should do that too. Get people to start asking you some questions and then you can just answer them right on the show. I can't wait.
That sounds amazing. I would love that.
Absolutely. We're definitely going to have you come back because we didn't talk about your marketing side and all that side, the fun side that you talked about, but we had a great time. We had a ball. I appreciate each and every person that came out. You guys, we can't do this without you guys. Absolutely. We depend on your support. We support you in your endeavors as well. I got Alina's website going on the bottom. Also, you have Charlene's and mine's as well. Come back next week where we may have a special guest, but you got to tune in and see. You guys have a great rest of your day and enjoy, guys. Peace.
Bye.